Welcome. Hello. Hello, Susmita. Very warm welcome. Hello, Connor. Hello, Connor. Can you hear me?
Hello.
He's there. Hello, hello, hello. How is your cough?
Terrible.
It's not
Just
good, is
been
it?
drinking water and it's actually making my throat actually even more sore, to be honest.
That's not good. That's not good. We'll see. We'll see the crowds that may join soon. Welcome, Susmita. You are our sole watcher right now. I'm sure we'll have lots more people will join us very soon. But do hop on in if you're watching on the live stream. Yeah. So what's caused that then? Mad shouting or rugby the weekend?
Drinking.
Drinking. Boo! Down with drinking. I don't abide with drinking.
I don't drink often. I don't drink often, so I like to go all out when I do.
Yes, yeah. Ha! I think it's a disgraceful habit, and I'd never indulge in said drinking. It's never happened that I did exactly the same this weekend, but it was in good
It's a good job
cause.
no one can see what's on the left-hand side of you then.
What, my brewery? Yes, welcome, Gail. There is a brewery on the left-hand side of me. I have to, yeah. I should really fire it up because winter's coming. I don't know if you don't drink very much, but I don't know if you may notice this. Like I notice it when sun's out, I like certain types of beers, and when the sun goes down and it gets cold, like it is now, I like darker beers. So it's time to get a really nice porter on. I think get that brewed. So welcome if you just joined us. This is the brewing podcast. It isn't a podcast, and it isn't about brewing. It is great,
I've got a question
Gail.
for you though, John.
Okay, yeah, shoot.
Which words are we going to butcher today?
Oh, I think we can manage to butcher a lot of words. I think we should have that as a slot, shouldn't we? The weekly word butcher. Maybe a prize for the prize for the person that spots which words we've butchered. For Linda and Gail, I'm sure you've been with us before. You've seen us butcher many words. I'm sure there'll be you'll be top of the pile for spotting word butchering. So yeah, well, apart from drinking and feeling hoarse, Connor, how are you today? Are you well?
I am. Kind of happy that I've reached a certain stage now during the third quarter that I've been kind of aiming towards since probably beginning of August or mid-August at least. So yeah, I'm kind of happy that that's out the way, and there'll be more information on that towards the end of the session. So
yeah, that'd be cool. We're gonna have to keep you to one-word sentences, aren't we, Connor? I think.
Yeah, my voice is it is on its way out again.
Yeah, well, luckily enough, you're off on holiday tomorrow, so you can go and destroy yourself a little bit more, but also recover and rest. Yeah, so yeah, well, I hope you have a fantastic time. But if you do struggle today, we'll cut it short. But I think we've got some good stuff in store today, haven't we? That we've been stewing around with. One of the things I wanted to just share with those of you watching, and a very warm welcome again. You've all been here before, haven't you? I know Gail and Linda have. Susmita, I recognise your name. You've been here before. How are you all? Are you well?
Probably much weller than me.
Yeah, so what I was going to say before I lost the train of thought there was that I have enabled Q&A, and we will do this. I think we're trying to push these sessions a little bit more. I'm really glad to hear it's cooled off a little bit. It's been really unseasonably warm here as well. I was at the weekend. I went for some time away with some friends for their 50th birthdays, and we did a long walk along the British East Coast, a place called Whitby. Walked for 6 miles, and it's October, and it was blue skies. It was just strange. Oh, Linda, you're off on holiday as well. Nice. Yes, it's been unseasonably warm. Anyway, I meandered around that. So I'm going to enable. I have enabled Q&A. So I know there's only a small group of us today. Like you can maybe take advantage of this. And I know, Linda, you are working through some beta testing for us, which is fantastic, and we really appreciate it on the step up for Power Automate. But if you got questions, things, treat it like a phone in. I've got this challenge. I'd like some help with it. I've got this. I'd like some help with it. Use the Q&A. If you can, the Q&A feature, just pop your questions in there and I'll leave it open. So throughout the week, if questions come up and you'd love us to look into them. Oh, you can't hear Susmita. That's a shame. Is my volume okay, Connor? Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, okay, good.
If you can't hear very well, then you should be able to enable the live captions under the more ellipsis in your meeting and go language and speech, and then turn on live captions as well. And that should hopefully, with my croaky voice, it's still going to be able to pick me up.
That's good. You can whisper. Okay.
I'll try and get nice and close to the mic.
Yeah, it may be a local issue, Suspita, although that's not helping you, because if you can't hear me, you can't hear the advice we're giving you. I will type into chat. It may be a local setting. Teams for me. I don't know why it does this. It's often choosing a random device to pick up as speakers. My microphone, I've got a Rode mic. Yes, check device settings. Good shout. My Rode mic often pretends to be speakers, and I don't fully understand why. It just decides it's going to do that. It's a Teams thing.
Because these mics have a monitoring output, so you can put phones into them. So you can technically listen back through as an actual output device as well as an input device.
Oh, cool. I did not know that. I'm just going to say welcome on the live stream actually to Chris and Jag. Lovely to have Jag here. Spoke to Jag a few weeks ago. So we are getting people join us on the YouTube channel as well, which is lovely because it means you don't have to log into the academy if you don't need to or don't want to. So that's fantastic. So where was I? I was meandering all over the place. We're going to enable Q&A. So you do need to come into the Teams meeting, which you can do via the academy. There's a dead easy link there. It's a free meeting to join. Pop in. If you've got questions around the Power Platform, things that you're trying to solve, you're struggling with, or just kind of how do I type questions, pop it into the Q&A and we'll try and see if we can make like a feature out of it in coming weeks to give you a little bit of a voice in these sessions, because Connor and I are always talking about the fact that we talk a lot, and Connor, definitely not me, butchers words all the time. But it'd be lovely if you're able to take part and share your thoughts and feelings and ideas as well. So yeah, do take advantage of that. So that's my admin for today. On this call, what have you been or what have you got lined up for us today, Connor, that you've been thinking about looking at?
So yeah, there's a few things. I mean, obviously I've been carrying on with my poker build last week. Kind of stepped away from Power Apps a little bit in the way of building applications or building the poker game. We kind of looked at introducing a custom connector inside of the Power Platform, which I've never done before. So that was quite a new thing for me to learn, which I'm happy I got to the end of it. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm happy I got to the end of it because it's been something I've been wanting to do for probably well over a year now, and I've just never had like a purpose to actually go ahead and use it. Obviously, ChatGPT has become such a big thing at the moment in terms of people using it in their everyday lives. I thought it'd be a great way to bring that OpenAI ChatGPT API and bring that into the Power Platform, so I was able to utilize that. So I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with it yet. That's still yet to figure out. I'll probably be doing that when I get back from Amsterdam. But what it kind of did lead me to think about was a service that I knew about, but I'd not really explored. And I've known about it for probably about 6 or 7 months now. And it's a service called Rapid API. And I think I mentioned this back on my first Power App series that I did. If anybody remembers that, I built it was sort of like a movie watch list. So you could mark and put down your movies that you want to watch. You can mark when you've watched them, and there was a whole kind of Power App and gallery to kind of go through all that. But yeah, and I remember seeing that there was, because I was basically looking for an IMDb sort of API, and that's how I came across Rapid API. And it looks like they've expanded it a little bit more than they had when I last looked at it. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to quickly show you that, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think that'd be awesome, Connor. I think it's a really interesting one, isn't it? We talk a lot, and I will talk a little bit when I've got a few ideas to share. I'll talk a bit about like how we all get into the Power Platform and that adoption process when we're very new. But one of the things I think that people perhaps regularly don't really think about is how actually easy, when you go and explore it, is to hook it up with things outside of your Microsoft 365 tenant. So this service that I think you're interested in sharing could be a really useful one for people to just go and extend their workflow.
One thing I found with APIs is it's usually quite easy. A lot of the APIs for many different services, and before I even get into Rapid API, like if you look at OpenAI's API, it's too many letters there, too many A's and I's. So yeah, OpenAI's API, if you actually go look at the documentation, a lot of this type of API documentation is very well documented, which makes it very easy to kind of to implement. In a way, I mean, it did take me 2 hours to do. If you are interested in kind of learning how to build a custom connector and are willing to kind of stick with me for 2 hours, then if you are a Platinum exclusive, you can go and watch episode 6 of my poker build. It's specifically getting the OpenAI API as a custom connector inside of the Power Platform. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the APIs that I've looked at, they're very well documented.
There we go. Documented. There's the word butchery.
Of course, it's going to happen to me today, isn't it?
Well done.
But yeah, it kind of, like I say, it got me looking at this this Rapid API. So what I will do is I will just share my screen, so you can see this. So hopefully you can see my screen, okay?
Indeed.
So yeah, this is Rapid API. So you have to create an account. And I believe there is a, sorry, my throat is really going. I believe there is a free version of Rapid API, and it gives you so many calls that you can make to different services. But like I say, you're very limited in how many times you can poll these APIs with that free account. And obviously, if you do want to start spending some money at it, and it is something that you're going to find useful, then obviously, by all means, it's probably going to be a very useful tool for you. But yeah, so this is Rapid API. I've already logged in and I've come over here to the API hub, and there is literally hundreds of public APIs that are available to just kind of jump in and use. So the way like an API typically works is you usually have to sign up for a developer account on some form of service, where you can then have to create your API key, your secret key that only you can use, and all of that sort of stuff. And it can be a bit of a hassle kind of juggling all of these different APIs and services that you're a part of. Whereas Rapid API, it kind of handles that for you from what I've seen. And just as an example, let's go search for IMDb, because that is something that I was looking at. Going back some time. So we got IMDb here. And there's a couple that have been made by various people. When you click into this, I mean, if you're not used to seeing like the structure of an API and kind of how it works, it might look a little bit daunting to you. But essentially, you have your kind of authentication side of things already kind of pre-filled out here for you. So you can see the host URL that you'll need to create your custom connectors in the Power Platform. You can see your API keys, and these are Rapid API keys. So these have been generated by Rapid API themselves. Like I say, you don't have to go and start creating accounts with IMDb to be able to use this stuff. You only need one account with Rapid API. But essentially, on the left here, you've got a bunch of different calls that you can make using those requests via the API. So you can see there's a bunch of GET requests here as well. For example, let's go and have a look at I think it was the one. Let's have a look. Get upcoming movies. So when I click on Get upcoming movies, you can see here that we get a bit of a code snippet, So there's a little bit of kind of juggling around to kind of figure out how to get this in the form that you want it in for your custom connector, because obviously at the moment here, this is in Node.js. And I think you're very limited to kind of anything that's like non-code based languages. So to write something like this inside of the Power Platform as a custom connector, you do kind of have to really sort of know what you're looking for. But a lot of it is kind of is written out for you. For example, we've got our headers here. You can probably barely see that. I will just zoom in a little bit. You've got your headers here, so you can see all of the host information, the key information that you need to authenticate this. And I think if I go into the example responses, sorry, I've zoomed in a bit too much. Just trying to get my zoom correct. I'm just trying to pinpoint because I've not used this API yet. But essentially, this will give you all of the kind of the requests that you can kind of pull across and put across inside of this API, which you can basically, once you've filled them out correctly inside of your custom connector, they should just work. Now, again, it's not something that I've actually tested myself yet. I've not tried this. I've kind of gone in through OpenAI's integrated API that they have and gone down that route. But yeah, it's worth having a look inside of a Rapid API, because there might be some services that you want to tap into, some useful ones that I think I saw on here earlier, which is very much related to the vacation booking challenge that we've got around the UK's bank holidays, holiday periods and all that sort of stuff. That's also in here as well. I can't remember where it was, but it was in here. I think it was under.
I mean, I'm intrigued by that travel one as well for the Power Automate stuff, because that's all about expenses and.
Yeah, there's so many different categories in here. We've got. I know you said you got transportations. We've got timetables. We can get air traffic information. We can see whether our flight's going to be on time and all of that sort of stuff. There's so many different services, and I think it's really good the way that this is all kind of all in one platform, which means that you don't need to kind of really mess around with all of those other accounts. So one thing I will say is, if I just go back to Rapid API, because I just wanted to highlight the pricing options, if I can remember how to get to them.
You'd think that'd be kind of front and center, right? Suppose you're logged in there. There'll be a non-logged in view.
Yeah, there was a.
So while you're doing this, Connor, I mean, I'm presuming that the way you would connect to a service such as this is via the HTTP connector in Power Automate. Is that what you did on Friday?
No, so I actually on Friday went and directly built a custom connector inside of Power Apps, and I can show you kind of what that
from Power
looks
Apps.
like.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so that obviously you pointed out to me about the interface changing a little bit inside of Power Apps, and it was something I ended up having to go looking for on my Friday session. But essentially, a few of the menus items over here have changed, and basically now we have to go to Discover All, where we can actually go and pin certain things to the side. For example, if I would like cards to pin to the side, I can pin that to the side. And custom connectors was kind of hidden just down here on the corner.
In the same way, content types is down the not content types. Component libraries is now a link down the bottom you can pin, isn't it? Which is irritating. Yeah. But there you
go. But yeah, this is the kind of route I went down to build this connector. So Jon was talking about the HTTP connector, which is, again, it's a viable option if you're using Power Automate. But what this gives you the ability to do with custom connectors is you can actually use these connectors. You can make all of those requests that are part of that API that you build into it from any of the Power Platform services. Whereas with the HTTP connector, you are limited to just doing that inside of Power Automate. So it's very similar in the way that it's structured. So I'll just quickly take you through a quick run through of this one. Essentially, you plug your host in. So that's exactly the same as when I went to the API hub. I'm just going to go and grab a random. Let's grab this text translator. So it asks for the actual API host, and we can see that we've got something that looks very similar there. API host. That's what you would then use, or it might even be the request URL. So again, it's one of those where you have to kind of have a little bit of a tinker, but the information is there. It's just knowing where to look, and the more you kind of get used to this, it will become much easier to do. We set up my API key inside of here. Then you set up basically your requests pointing to the right type of request it is. So you can see that this is a post request. Some of the ones on here are, we've got post here, we've got get as well. So there's a bunch of different ones that you can add. And essentially you just build them up in that way by using the URLs, the correct headers that you have. Again, all of your header parameters are inside of here, so that's all easy to find. And then you can basically expose things to Power Automate and Power Apps. You can basically say whether certain pieces of information that you want to pass into these are required or not. So you can then basically take that API and you can force values. You can set default values in here, but you can force values or force behaviors down to your users that are using this connector. For example, in Power Apps, you can specify they only need to fill out 2 fields because there is a default field which is automatically populated, for example. So yeah, it requires a little bit of kind of just tinkering around, figuring your way around. But yeah, it's a really useful thing to have in your kind of skill set.
It is, yeah. I mean, I think I believe in the distant past. I'm similar to you, actually, Connor. I'm very aware of the third-party connectivity we've got. We don't always have call to use it, but I think we probably will when it comes to things like OpenAI and things like the Power Automate success path that we're building, where we'll want to show the art of the possible. It is still my belief that even through that mechanism, there are certain restrictions. And I'm not 100% sure exactly how that manifests itself for everybody, but I think to create those connections is fine, to use them yourself is fine, but the moment you begin to share those with other consumers of apps or flows, I've got a funny feeling you need licenses, or certainly that's what the internet suggests.
With custom connectors, it is a premium feature of Power Apps.
I thought it would be, yeah.
The way authentication works, which it baffled me when I figured this out, was I thought that the authentication part of it, actually saying, right, okay, this is me, I'm going to be using this connector. I thought that was going to be part of this process that was on my screen a minute ago, where you're actually going through those 5 steps and you actually authenticated there, whereas that's not the case. So when you authenticate connections, the authentication is done as and when the connector that you've built is being used. You just set up the parameters in which it knows how to make that authentication. So once you've built your custom connector, you can then go bring it into Power Apps, the same way as you'd connect to any other service in Power Apps. You'll find it in that list, and on doing so, it will then ask you to authenticate with the preferred authentication method that you've chosen when building your connector.
Right. And presumably at that point it'll give you a little nudge to say, hey buddy, you need to upgrade your license to do this, a per apps or a per flow license or whatever it is that you've got. That's interesting.
Yeah, I've not explored that far into them yet.
No, it's always interesting to go on these sort of journeys of exploration, isn't it? I think that's a really good one to point out, that difference between the custom connectors, that opportunity that you've got, and yeah, because I think we're going to start using OpenAI a lot more. Maybe via the Azure service or Azure if you're US based, but I'm going to stick with Azure. Bit of word butchery, but I think it's like continent specific word butchery there. Bless you, your cough's not great. No, thanks for that, Connor. It's interesting you picked on the interface changes. I actually only spotted them this morning because it popped up, as it does, it pops up the lovely little something's changed purple in Power Apps, and so I saw the component libraries changing location. How do you feel about it? Do you like the new UI?
Personally, I think it's I think it's nice. It makes things a lot more kind of easy to see, and I do like the card view that we're seeing. I do miss the ease though of being able to select things from the left, but like I say, we can pin them now, so it's fine.
Yeah, you make your own. It's like a pick and mix, isn't it? But of course, that's going to require us to, yeah, you grab a glass of water, require us to go and have a look at our challenges. But I mean, I guess I'd be interested in people's views, actually, whether you're either aware or you're happy with those changes that have taken place. Anybody got any sort of major thoughts on these UI changes we're seeing in the Power Platform? Whether you like them or you loathe them, or whether you've not seen them. As you do that, as one thing, I'd also would be really interested in fact, our challenges rely a lot upon showing people where to go. And of course, things are always changing. So what we try and do is we try and kind of give you the idea behind the thing, the reason for going and getting a component library. And the hope is that we'd say it enough times, things do move. You can go and find these things, but you'll still have that like underlying knowledge as to why you're doing something. But it's going to present some challenges, I think, with all of the new Copilot and the new UI. I can see Chris is typing. Yeah, they do. I think you're right, James. One of the specific things we, first of all, found quite hard until we trained ourselves was finding the component libraries inside Power Apps, because it's that little link down the bottom left-hand side when you click on Add. I'll be interested to see whether they move any of that stuff around in the canvases as they've done with Power Automate. That's at the moment that is very much an interface change within Power Automate for Copilot, but I can see that's going to become the de facto as we move. Yeah, it just requires learning. I agree. Oh yeah.
Yep, you keep shorting out.
Stuttering. I noticed there was some stuttering as you were talking, so I'll just check. Can everybody else hear me clearly, or is there some stuttering?
I can hear you, but you're frozen on our screen now. Oh, you're back.
Okay. Well, that's useful. Yeah, well, let us know if I am stuttering. It's outside of just Connor and myself. Okay, we're stuttering before. It's interesting, isn't it? Not entirely sure why that is. In fact, I can see myself on the live screen, frozen, solid, like this. That's not ideal. Anywho, yeah. So stuff that stuck out for me. There was one other thing I wanted to call out actually, and it's I really enjoy. I'll just pop to the screen as I'm chatting. We've got one coughing and one stuttering today, so I do apologise for this. Power Automate. I often just go for a little wander around the UI just to see if there's any interesting things to show you all. And as I do that, it's it's gone slow for me. So one of the things I've started to try and do, I don't know whether you all do this, I will share my screen now, is to just pay a bit more attention when you're at the home to, you know, what's new and what's changing. I often just skim this. I don't know, does anybody pay much attention to these areas? But I mean, I've seen, and we should have a look into this actually, the robotic process automation, firing up effectively virtual machines to run as desktops for you. One week we will dig into that. But one of the things I did notice this week is the update of Power Automate Desktop. It's a service that I've talked about before and I really enjoy. It does a lot for us. But one of the things that I spotted this week, I mean, I really quite like this idea, and we should experiment with it, Connor, is the idea of setting up work queues. For anybody who's not used Power Automate Desktop, it's like a macro engine, but for your desktop environment. So you can fire up browsers, you can fire up old applications, and you can hook into screen elements, which is quite cool. But equally, you can string together things in the context of your desktop, which I quite enjoy. And you can also string those together with your cloud flows. So the more we get in this, the more I begin to see opportunities for it in perhaps workspaces where you've got cloud services like we have now, but you may be using legacy technology as well. I call it legacy. It's often just technology that is just used for us. So things like, you know, old access databases, things via a server somewhere, AS400, dare I say. I'm sure you could probably interface through those clients to the processes and have a little play. So I really like the idea we're starting to get almost run book type capability, and by that I mean like processes that we can build. And I did also notice a whole host more OneDrive stuff. We struggled with this a while back, didn't we, Connor, on how to interface with OneDrive, get documents, retrieve documents, take information out of them, save them. And I forget what it was for. Wasn't for our social app, was it? What did we use that for?
I think it was for the trying to think of the document processing. I know that we was doing a lot of automation of videos, where we was
videos,
passing in information, passing in images into, or creating videos. Again, I think it was using some form of API, and then using Power Automate Desktop to then chuck them back into a file structure type of thing.
Yeah. So I mean, again, I think we've got a lot more being added to it. Almost week by week, we see new services getting added to the Power Automate Desktop. So I'd encourage you, if you've not touched it, not played around with it, go and download it. It's ever so easy to get a hold of. You go to create a flow here, and in the top right hand side, you've got Power Automate Desktop. You can download it. It doesn't cost anything. It just sits on your desktop if you're allowed to do it, of course. And have an experiment. I'd love to hear how people use it, because we talk about it a lot, and I've heard a few suggestions over the months that we should do some learning on it, some dedicated kind of challenge or workshop type learning. As yet, we've held off because we feel it's one of those kind of slightly more edge cases. But hey, if there's a demand for it, we'd go and look into it. So that caught my eye. The other thing, I mean, I alluded to this. We're doing a lot of talking at the minute, aren't we, Connor, about how we can kind of best support people in the academy, because we're 10,000 big now, which is a big number. But we're starting to think, who is in this academy, and we have this belief that there will be lots and lots of people who work in groups and work in teams. And we're starting to think about how we can kind of support you in your journeys. But we stopped last week and we kind of challenged our own assumption there. And I wanted to just call out this blog post that Fraser's written, actually, because it caused me this week to stop and think, is this the real experience of people that we speak to day in, day out, and you on the call today? Is it your experience that you're part of a team, you're part of a small group in your organization, and Power Platform is becoming the technology of choice? Because if it is, this blog can speak to you, and I'll do a quick summary in a minute, but I thought I'm just going to pause before I do that summary, and I just want to, if I can, use a wonderful bit of technology called polls, just to find out how those of you on this call would consider your relationship with Power Platform, Microsoft 365 services. So I'm just going to try and launch a poll for you, and I'd love to see if we can get your views. So whether you're working alone, whether you're part of a team, whether you're new, whether this is something that you've got a lot of experience with, really appreciate your votes on that poll. Can everyone see the poll? Can you see it, Connor?
Yep, I can. It's got some weird formatting on that poll.
It has. I'm noticing that myself. Okay. See, this is what surprises me, actually. We have a lot of discussions as to who takes part in the academy. And what okay, so I'll just let it settle a bit. Okay, so yeah, we've got what I'd expect is some Lone Rangers just starting to learn, maybe a team just starting to learn, but the majority is part of a team who've been using this for a while, so that's fascinating. So, I mean, in many senses then, this blog post that I'm going to just ping across to you that caught my eye might be relevant to you. But it's kind of one of the other things I wanted to do was just, again, to test that assumption that you're here because you want to learn about the technology, to better exploit the technology, because you're on some kind of learning journey as an organization or a department, for those of you who are part of that department. So I don't know if you feel comfortable just sort of sharing. I mean, it might seem a bit strange, but I just wanted you to just to ask a question, basically. So if you were to imagine, and bear with me on this, imagine the academy is one of these magazines on a shelf. and you're looking at the front cover of it, and typically magazines will speak to you. That's how they do these things. They will call out to your needs, your desires. But imagine the Academy is a magazine, or on its front page are headlines that speak to you, to what you need to be doing right now and why you've come to the Academy, and you've taken it off the shelf. I'd love to know what was on that front page for you. I'd love it if you could perhaps just share your thoughts with us. Even if that thought is, John, that doesn't make any sense. So the example I was thinking is, you think of these magazines and they speak to you, they say, build muscles without actually moving from your chair. And that makes you, because you're thinking of, you want to improve your physique and that kind of thing. And it does, they speak to you. And that's why I would pick it up, because I want to get fitter. Is that your motivation? Turning that to power ups. What's your motivation?
To me, John.
I'm sorry, say again.
So your analogy sounds like laziness to me.
It does. It does sound very much like laziness. So we'll get a couple of responses. While you do that, I mean, we have very much taken the assumption that on that magazine cover, and I will wait for responses and I'll call to those in a minute, that we have this belief that there is a great opportunity for Power Platform, for the services that sit around it. And people come to us because, number one, they perhaps like the community aspect. On that magazine cover, it's come and join us. This is a friendly group. This is talking about topics you're interested in. The flip side is we see that magazine cover is speaking to the desire to help your organisation through this journey, because we've all got to start somewhere. And that's what this kind of blog post speaks to. I can see a few people typing. I'm madly filling here. So I'll move on a little bit as that gets typed in, and I will come back to that, but I'll just post the blog post. Too many posts in there, isn't it? Post the blog post link for you, but I can into chat.
Like AIs.
We're very much intrigued as to what's driving you. I'm sorry, say again.
So it's a bit like AIs, APIs.
It is, isn't it? Blog post, yeah. We're just really intrigued as to what's sort of drawing people to the Power Platform. What's causing you to do it? Is it role changes? Is it your team's going on a journey? Is it community? And you've always lived in this space. Any information we can get helps us kind of serve you better. But that blog post there speaks to our assumption that there will be a group of you who are on this journey. And if you do get a chance to read it, I would strongly encourage just to have a skim of it, because if you're on an adoption journey for Power Platform, or for any service, to be honest, it really calls out some quite interesting points that we don't often think about as part of our technical role. But for me, for example, taking on a new technology like Microsoft 365 and the Power Platform is a little bit like it's kind of a cultural shift. Perhaps we might be moving away from the developer space or the classical sort of business to developer relationships. And so to do that, you have to really think about the people involved in the process. And specifically for me, I mean, I take that blog post with a pinch of salt. I don't believe all the steps are always going to be needed. It depends on your organization, but some very specific, there's 4 of them actually that really stand out for me in that. I'd be interested in your views when you read it. Is that, first of all, if you are on that Power Platform journey to take this solution or these services into your business, the step 2, the assessment, figuring out what people's problems are, is perhaps one of the most important things, because it's a big mistake, I believe, this is my personal belief, to go to an organization and say, I have a solution that can solve your problems. Much prefer what that blog post starts to talk about, which is, let's talk about your problems. What kind of problems do you have? Do those kind of problems, like speed to market, ease of supportability, do they match up with the Power Platform? So I really like that aspect of the blog post, and it starts to talk about that. And the other aspect that goes alongside that for me is start small. I don't know how many of you are experiencing this at the minute, but business change, started big, can be quite challenging. So start small, learn from those experiences is another thing that it calls out, and communicate the wins as you go. That's step 6 on that blog post. Talk about those successes, build that community, which is step 7, around those successes. And I found that whole story really interesting to think about. I just wanted to call it out because it may be the world that you're living in right now. just going to go back to the chat and have a look at what people are saying. So learn to become an expert. That's really interesting. So becoming the expert and becoming that person who maybe can ripple these effects across. And I guess, you know, there's perhaps some relevance in what I've spoken about there. So that's really interesting, Chris. And Linda, an operations and efficiency mindset. So yeah, okay, so that's more about, so in terms of that magazine, Linda, perhaps drawing down the magazine that's got curiosity written all over it. What could you do with this technology? What might you be missing out on? And specifically for non-profit, how can we save time and money? I assume is very important. So it's really interesting to learn.
I'm seeing this popping up more and more from my members. A lot of them are very kind of, a lot of them have even kind of turned up here mainly because of the whole kind of automation and business process sort of ideas. There's a lot of things that I see as well in the forum around Power Automate that people are wanting to utilize it, and I generally think that is down to a kind of a lack of time to do things for yourself. Yeah, that is quite interesting to see that. I think that's probably why the Power Automate challenge is going to be big once that's done.
Yeah, I mean, I'd see that as, yeah, again, my bias. I see it as one of the most common and easiest, perhaps, to reach for services that you can get a quick win out of. If anybody ever says to me, what would be your first, you look at the Power Platform, what would be your first start point? I'm always going to go for a Power Automate win. Take an email and make it nice and automated to pop up a Teams message, for example, or give an auto response or something like that. Start small. Or convert a document using Power Automate Desktop. I think those automations are awesome. That'd be an interesting challenge, wouldn't it? Like, to set, what would you set the community? What would you reach for first if you were to use the Power Platform?
I think you're right. I think all of the answers would be Power Automate.
It's weird, isn't it? Yeah.
I believe it solves the most problems without having to learn too much about how to use it. You can solve an awful lot of problems out of the box with what you get without the need to think about formulas and expressions and all of that sort of stuff, design and all that. You don't need any of that. It's just a straight get up and go. And if you can read plain English, then it's very easy to do step-by-step automations. So yeah, I think that would be the answer.
I
put money on that.
Interesting, actually, on the live stream chat, Jags suggest, and it's a perfect example, get certain lines of an email and pop them into SharePoint lists. 100% possible in both Power Automate Desktop if you want to, but Power Automate Cloud Flows I'd use to interface with your Outlook client to look for certain types of emails based upon certain pattern matches. So, for example, if it's got a word in the subject or it's got a structure in the body that you're looking for, and then getting that data from that email is a matter of choosing the right actions, choosing perhaps some expressions to slice up your data. But it absolutely is possible to answer your question with Power Automate. It's quite fun to do it. I forget when we did it, Connor. We did an exercise a while back to take data from an email and effectively stick it all into an array and then take pieces of it and put it in different places. It may have been live, it may have been somewhere else.
Yeah, I don't recall being part of that project.
Probably me in my brain, I've done it. But yes, it is absolutely possible. So that's what I've been doing this week, or certainly that's what caught my eye anyway. It's just really interesting to chat to you all about your experiences. So thank you for sharing. So we're getting into kind of the back end of today, Connor. I know you wanted to speak a little bit about what is a big win in terms of Power Apps and its success path.
Yeah, I'll try not to talk too much, otherwise I'm going to be on the floor by the end of it. But yeah, so yeah, for those that have been following my progress at these live calls, you know that I've been working probably since mid-August to release what is the next step in the Power Apps challenges that we've got, the success path. and that is the next Pathfinder, and this is all about components inside of power apps. So just for those that have not taken any of these challenges, there's currently now 3 challenges for it. The Pathfinder will be, I think, officially released over the next, maybe kind of in a week's time. I think we're aiming for. But essentially, yeah, we've got the Jumpstart Challenge, which is all about building a single screen app, getting used to controls on your screen, all of the real basic stuff that you would expect to be able to do as a Power Apps developer. Then we go into the Step Up, which is all about forms and galleries and really kind of working with your data and turning that single screen app into a multi-screen app. And then the next kind of natural step, and we kind of looked at this for a while, and we said, well, what would we go into next? And there's things like Dataverse, but we feel like that's been covered in quite a few things, and it's not saying that we're not going to get around to doing a challenge on Dataverse, but the the next natural step for me when I was looking at the screen was components. Components are hugely beneficial, and they're very underused as well. So yeah, I ended up designing an entire challenge on components, and it's called the Power Apps Component Pathfinder. And what I was going to do for today was just give you a quick demo as to as what you'll build inside of that challenge. And then at the end of it, I'm going to be looking to get some beta testers to come and have a go, come and take the challenge, see how it feels, give us some feedback on it, and all of that sort of stuff. So I will just quickly share my screen once more, and you're probably already blown away by the crazy colours that are on this screen.
What have you done? What have you done?
Well,
I'm never offended, Connor, by colours, but I'm offended by the look of that.
That's the thing. You say, what have I done? It's now, what can you do? And the answer is you can now do everything color-wise with these components. So this is currently a component library. These colors, these components are set in what we call a component library. And during the challenge, you'll learn about local components, component libraries, how to export and import your components across apps and all of that sort of stuff. But that's essentially what a component is. It allows you to basically reuse a set of controls across various different apps in your environment, in your tenant, and all of that sort of stuff. So what you'll essentially do on the challenge is you'll be building 3 components. It'll take about an hour to complete. But essentially we have a header component, and you can see this looks very different to how it does on this screen here. And that's because a component is designed in a way where you give what we call app designers the ability to change and manipulate your component as a component designer. So you're really kind of giving your app designers the flexibility to kind of do what they want to do with the set of controls that you're going to provide them. So it's all about that. So yeah, you build a header component where they'll be able to change things like logos and text. We'll build a navigation component, so you can have a dynamic table of screens that can perform actions. For example, navigating to different screens, you can maybe make it open up a link, all of that sort of stuff. And you'll also build a dynamic color picker as well, where they'll have 3 sliders using the RGB values. Where they can then set a color, and then that will change the color for both the header and the navigation bar. So yeah, it's a nice 3 kind of stage process of building a nice component library. And yeah, I just thought I'd kind of share how everything kind of looks. So users can obviously come in here now. Once the component's built, they can change these sliders. They can see the colors changing in real time, which is really nice. Let's go this horrible lime green, shall we?
Do you know what I like about this, Connor, is it's actually not that simple to get things to dynamically update in a Power App like this. But using the component library, you've unlocked that capability, which I think is quite cool. So you could have set themes, couldn't you, that you could just pick from? Click, 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 done.
Yeah,
rather
so
than the app on start, which you often have to do.
Yeah, so you see I've just done a little bit of a color change there. Let's go and make it maybe a little bit of a purpler color. There's a nice purple. It's quite a nice color actually. And we're using a set button, and all that's doing is it's changing the properties of these components because we've exposed them in what we call custom properties for components. So yeah, if you're interested in learning how to build this and how to actually use it, obviously we get this navigation bar as well. You can customize that with your own screens, and you can do that on a per app basis as well. So it's not kind of hard set to just be in one set of screens. If you are interested in learning how to build this, I am going to open this up to beta testers. I think Jon might be getting a form.
I will do, yeah. I'm just replying to Jag over on another chat. I will pop the form in there. It's like we did a few weeks ago when I opened up the Power Automate. We're doing a lot of courses at the minute, a lot of challenges to release them for you. So it's just the same form that we used to fill in for that. We just like to get your feedback really on how you're finding the academy, how you're finding us, what's good, what you need more of, all that great stuff. And in return, as Connor quite rightly says, you get a free set of skills, which is quite cool. I think that's cool anyway, Connor. I really like it. I like what you've done there.
Yeah, so sort of back at that then. So yeah, if you fill out that form, it's just a general feedback form for now. And when I get back from Amsterdam, I'll choose some people to roll in the beta test and give me some feedback on it. And hopefully everything works as it should. I mean, I've run through it once. But yeah, it'd be nice to get some feedback from our amazing members. So
it would be awesome. Yeah, great. And to be honest, those who filled it in today, I've really appreciated it. We have really appreciated it because it's teaching us about our assumptions, the unconscious bias that we have about who it is we're serving. And the more we know about who we're serving, the better we can start to target that content for you. So you've got good stuff to come and find, which is all we really want to do. Yeah, thanks, Connor, for that. I was just answering Jag's question on the live stream as well about, again, it's going back to Power Automate and the art of the possible, how you can use flows in different manners. You can go through inboxes to scan the whole inbox for different items according to patterns, or you could just go one at a time whenever anything lands. Much flexibility in Power Automate. So yeah, if you get the chance, go and do Power Automate challenges. So what else have we got, Connor? Where are we? Oh, crikey. We are at 52, so we've got 8 minutes left. Should we do a quick look ahead, apart from your holiday, about what's coming up?
Yeah, so I've not really got much of an update to share with you this week. Today's my last day for 7 days.
Boo! So we get to miss you on the I nearly said Power Apps Challenge, the Poker Challenge, but we will be back, I think, once you're back the following Friday. We've probably got something a little bit different lined up, I think, unless you find an amazing solution for. I suppose I can give a little bit of an update on that. So obviously, yeah, I'm obviously away this week, so I won't be here for the Friday live session. I'm not sure if there's going to be anything that takes its place in the meantime. Cool. But yeah, I mean we discussed where this is kind of going with this poker challenge, and I think I've kind of with the help of James Williams on Friday, we've kind of got to a point now where we can kind of maybe progress this a little bit further. We've got a few different ideas to maybe go down to actually help us solve this in an efficient way. I know James pointed out some really obvious things when it came to it, but I didn't think about them when I built them at the time. So there's a few things that we've got to fix. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a couple more weeks in the poker challenge. Yeah, and even if we don't get to that next week, I think we've got some interesting stuff in mind coming up for those. So keep an eye on the Fridays, although there won't be one this week. But there is a really good session coming up on Wednesday. It's a free session for you to attend. So that's with Kelly Edinger, and I hope I haven't butchered Kelly's name too badly there, but it's been one we've been hoping to run for quite a while now. But it's another one of these where you ask yourself, where would you reach for if you want to showcase good stuff with the Power Platform or with Microsoft 365 in general? And repeat document creation does come up quite a lot around how do I stop people having to do copy and paste, taking a contract, taking a statement of works, taking any, like an event plan, for example? How can I make that process easier and cut time out of it? And what Kelly's going to show us is a process where, using a simple form to collect data, we'll be able to automatically generate Word documents, which we could then, if we wanted to, turn into PDFs, automatically generate them with the correct data already in them. So they're simply then, potentially via Power Automate, shippable off to approval processes, shippable off via email, but larger scale document generation. So that's a Wednesday, and I'm going to check my timings. It is 2 p.m. UTC. Always say UTC, because if we say any of the time zones, we'll get confused. So that's 2 p.m. Wednesday. Come along. Wendy and myself will be Kelly and myself will be there for that one. So we hope to see
names now, not just words.
Oh man, do you know it's only Monday, Connor? James gets confused by UTC.
And the UTC time that we say will then confuse us in about 2 weeks' time when we put the clocks forward.
It will. No back, Connor. Hey, I tell you what, we're on point today. Clocks.
One or the other.
I think. Fall back, spring forward. That's how I remember it. Even though we don't call it fall, it's autumn. So we get an extra hour in bed is the important thing. But anyway, back to Kelly. So come along on Wednesday. It will be live. It will be free. You will be able to watch it again if you miss it on demand. But of course, that's only open to Platinum Plan members. So look out for that. And then I think we'll be back next time, same time on Monday, won't we? I'm just going to stop talking, Connor. I haven't got the words to keep talking properly.
You haven't got the words.
But we'll be back same time. Yeah. I haven't got the brain. You haven't got the voice.
What are we doing here?
What are we doing here? James, just come on live and just run this show for us. It'd be fantastic if you would. So I think for this week, without further ado, that's probably us. As I say, I did say at the start, use the Q&A throughout the course of the week to pop in any questions or thoughts you've got around questions. So I'm just looking at Jag's question, actually. Can you extract the hex code from it afterwards? I presume that's about the colours on the colour picker.
In my original design, you could. I chose not to do it for the actual Pathfinder challenge, simply just due to time constraints. I didn't want the challenge to go on for too long, and obviously there's a big whole kind of process around that. But like, if once you've taken the challenge, I'm happy to share the kind of other side of it with you. I might make a separate video or something for it, or maybe if it is a requested thing, then yes, I can do that.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks, Connor. So I think until next week, and Connor and I do promise to come back next week fully refreshed with all the right words in all the right orders, and some good demos next week, hopefully. But do tell us via the Q&A what you want to see, what you want us to address, and if we can find the right kind of topics, we'll pick on topics during these demo sessions and hopefully help you. But one final thing I want to say is, Linda, I'm very much aware that we are working together on the feedback for the Power Automate Step Up, and particularly around the markup language. So I'm going to have a look at that for you, and we'll try and get that solved for you. So from me, I think that's a TTFN to tar for now until next Monday.
Awesome. I will enjoy Amsterdam, I'm sure.
You will.
Thanks, James. Thanks, everybody.
Come back alive, Connor. That's all I've got to say. All right, folks.
That would be ideal, wouldn't it?
It would be ideal, yeah. It would be ideal. Alive with all of your limbs intact. And P.S. I've just noticed your light's doing that funny thing over your shoulder again. It's going off and coming back on again.
Well, I'm going to turn them off completely for the first time in about a year when I go away.
Turn them off again. Yeah. On and off again. Well, take care, everybody. Have a lovely week, and we will see you next week.
Awesome. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.